Welcome to the Season 1 finale of the South Asian Impact Project podcast. I'm your host, Vidhi Bhansali. And today we're switching things up a bit. Instead of interviewing a guest, I want to take you behind the scenes into the lessons that shaped me this season. When I started this podcast, I really thought I was here to tell their stories. But somewhere along the way, their stories started shaping mine in ways I didn't expect, but definitely needed. So today I'm sharing the 5 biggest lessons I'm taking with me from 6 extraordinary guests. Throughout this episode, you'll hear moments from our conversations that made me rethink my assumptions and reminded me what real impact looks like. So let's dive in and close out the season the way we started it, with purpose, curiosity, and a whole lot of heart. Learning number 1. Purpose is a superpower. If there's one thing I've heard again and again this season, it's this. Purpose is the thing that steadies you when everything else feels chaotic. When you're driven by something bigger than yourself, the late nights, the self-doubt, the impossible balancing act, they stop feeling like barriers and start feeling like part of the journey.
Next thing we hit was COVID, which started right in 2020. We were delayed a little bit, to say the least, but we were still able to make progress during that time as much as we could. But after the pandemic, the cost of everything, particularly construction elements, skyrocketed. And we were competing with the scarcity of marble in India because of the ongoing temple projects in India. There were shipping lane challenges because the port of the Suez Canal was impacted because of geopolitical issues in that part of the country, of the world rather. But again, at the end of the day, we persisted, and the marble's here.
It's a personal story of loss that that happened in 2018 when I lost my mother. I was running a fairly successful IT staffing business, and that sort of triggered the emotion that I need to do more, need to put my life to better use. Yeah, there is actually no balance. For me, the kitchen is really my happy space. I'm very lucky to have such supportive in-laws and my family who recognizes the fact that that is what the kitchen is, where I want to be, and all my energy goes there.
Be patient. Community work takes time. Results aren't always immediate. Progress that happens quietly before it becomes visible. There are obstacles always, like funding, regulations, burnout. But if your work is grounded in the purpose and accountability, those challenges become learning opportunities.
Our kids are on devices in the schools. Textbooks that time is gone. And so, kids are on computers for lessons. Sure, that's fine. Kind of accepted that. But they're also given screens during indoor recess time or downtime. Indoor recess should be a time for kids to play. They need to interact. They need to negotiate. They need to problem solve with peers. These are all critical social communication skills. I saw this happening at my own kids' school. And so I actually worked with the school to change their policy on this and ban screens during indoor recess.
Honestly, hearing these stories back to back hits very differently. When I first thought about starting this podcast, I had a whole list of reasons not to do it. 10 very practical, very convincing reasons. But somewhere along the way, these conversations started making a much bigger impression on me than my own doubts did. The way each guest showed up with purpose, the way they pushed through chaos, grief, bureaucracy, burnout, and everything in between, it made my excuses feel small. Their purpose made me braver about my own. And that's really what this first learning is all about. Purpose doesn't make the hard things disappear. It just makes them worth doing. Learning number 2, don't wait for perfect. Just start. This season made one thing really clear. Clarity doesn't come from waiting for the perfect moment. It comes from starting. even when things feel a little messy.
The realization motivated me to step outside the traditional healthcare settings and bring services directly into the community. Like I began organizing and supporting some health camps in the faith communities, in synagogues, in community centers across the DMV. And since 2013, when we started our first health camp, until 2020, we did almost 70 health camps during that time.
When I started this journey, I had no clue of how to run a food operation, how to run a US-based nonprofit. When I look back, it ties up to my entrepreneurial, the gene, or in Hindi we call it the word kida, but. And I just took the plunge. Any entrepreneur who's actually gone ahead, done something, and is successful, um, has that story of sweat, blood, and tears. So it's never, success does not come in a hunky dory way. No, it always comes with its risk taking. Is the single most factor that somebody with an entrepreneurial bent of mind has.
All I wanted to do was play table tennis. That's what I did. Learned a lot through sports, losing and living with it and fighting back. I think has been a consistent thread in no matter what I did. Thanks to the resilience, thanks to the spirit of not giving up that I learned very early on in life, it kept me going. My line between being foolish and not so foolish is very thin. I'll just leave it at that.
And that's the heart of all these stories. Nobody waited for perfect. They just took the first step, even when it felt uncertain. Or as Sunila says, a little foolish. Honestly, that's how this podcast began for me too. I had my fair share of cringeworthy recordings, bad hair days, and social media facepalms. But I knew that if I didn't start now, I'd sit on this idea forever and regret it later. Because sometimes the only way forward is to begin. Imperfect, unsure, and fully human. Learning number 3. Community is your greatest asset. This season reminded me that the community, your village, isn't just a support system, it's a force multiplier. When people come together with shared purpose, the impact grows in ways you can't predict and definitely can't manufacture.
AGC started very simply in the early days. It was about building partnerships, earning trust. We relied heavily on volunteers, community leaders, and healthcare providers who were willing to donate their time. I always believe in two T's, not the third T's. I would always believe in the time and talent and not the treasure. So when we ask the people out in the community, it's the time and talent and not the treasure. That will come automatically, the treasure.
A key point I'd like to make is the Chain Society is a completely volunteer-run organization. Not a single person gets paid $1. All the volunteers that help are doing so, out of their own time.
All these high school kids, sometimes even the middle schoolers, they start at an early age. So these 12-year-olds will come in, or 14, 15, 16, volunteerism is one of the key cornerstones of our story. And then the community just generously contributes, whether it is in-kind donation, whether it is monetary donations, and all the different aspects of the operation, we get volunteering help. So disabled adults living in group homes or organizations, along with the caste programs of Loudoun County Public School or the special education enrolled high schoolers. So they all come to the kitchen to volunteer.
And that's really what kept coming up this season. Community makes the impossible feel doable. It turns big visions into shared responsibility. It turns strangers into teammates. And honestly, it's the same thing that carried me through this podcast. My family, my friends, guests, listeners, the community, is what kept me going on the days I questioned myself. Learning number 4, human connection heals. This season reminded me that the healing doesn't always come from big systems. A lot of the time, it comes from simple human connection, from play, from creativity, from just being present with someone.
There are a lot of activities and games and things you can do at home to build language at home. I have found that the parents that are involved in their own child's language and speech development, those kids make the best progress. Parents are very powerful agents of therapeutic intervention, actually.
You know how a tree has a cross section? So when you cut it, everything has a story in it because it represents that year. And so it's usually darker when there's like a drought or something. And then when there's more rain, it's usually lighter. So we took that concept and we asked them the rings to be each year, each decade in their life. So there were 8 rings. And I sat with my mom and I worked with it. It was so wonderful to get her to talk about her life. And each of them did one of these. And then when they do their homework, they bring it in and share. And they all got to share their stories. One person had been through partition as a little kid. And so they talked about and what helped us survive.
Like the only thing you can do is right now. The only person you can help is the one next to you now. And only thing you can speak is also right now. So basically, to me, that just means be in my head, I could be a stellar judge making all those decisions. Never going to happen, right? I can live my life and dream the whole time, or I can just help this person who's next to me right now coming out of my head and actually doing something for them now, right? So that detachment and being in the moment, in the present, in that particular moment helps me many, many times. There's no mincing my words there. Things are very bad many, many times. But then my situation, my role, and my sheer presence in that moment is to somehow make this a little bit better than what it is right now.
What I love about these stories is how small the starting point is. A moment of play, a creative prompt, a single act of presence. None of it is complicated. It's just people showing up for each other in ways that make life feels a little lighter and a little more meaningful. Sometimes that quiet human connection is its own kind of healing. Learning 5. Giving back is a selfish act. This one surprised me, but every guest said it in their own way.
What I'm doing in the kitchen is my meditation. So when you are serving, and that is what is this whole Annasudha 4-year journey has done to my personal journey. So it's the if you remember in the kitchen you have something written that seva, it's the thing of unconditional service that changes life of not only others but the one who's practicing it. It helps me to get rid of my imperfections on a daily basis.
Art is really in our everyday life. If we can see it, and it's not meant only for the walls, it's in, and the process is so important. Product is important too, but not necessarily the process also. So just like enjoying cooking, enjoy doing art for art's sake. And my legacy is I see this little girl who's getting help through art. And I think maybe it was me who got through help through art when I was a little kid. And that gives me joy that when I think a person will get help through art, it just gives me a lot of joy and satisfaction.
I don't measure legacy by titles, or programs alone. I measure by whether people felt seen, whether barriers were lowered, whether someone found confidence or support. Is our work with refugees, seeing families who had just arrived, carrying trauma, uncertainty, exhaustion, find support, healthcare, and a sense of dignity was humbling. Sometimes it was about medical care at all. It was about some explaining the system patiently or simply listening. These moments, big and small, reaffirms what I work. They remind me the impact isn't measured only in numbers, but in trust, relief, and human connection.
I cannot describe how hard it is to see somebody sitting in those red clothes across from you. You know they are innocent. You know they're qualified. You know they're not a criminal. But you come out of that very heavy. But then we're able to bring them out. I think there's nothing in the world that comes close to that feeling. I think it's very selfish. I think that feeling will make me do this on my deathbed.
And that's really the through line here. Giving back feels good. It fills you up just as much as it supports someone else. While working on this season, me and my family had the chance to visit and volunteer with some of these organizations ourselves. And from just those brief interactions, we walked away with this huge sense of gratitude for all the good things we have going for us and for how good it felt to show up for someone else. Community work isn't completely selfless. It changes you too, sometimes even more than the people you're trying to serve. As I close out this season, I just want to say thank you to every guest who trusted me with their story, to every listener who tuned in, shared an episode, or reached out, and to everyone doing quiet, meaningful work in their community. This podcast is for you. If these stories resonated, please help us keep them moving, share them, support these organizations if you can, or get involved with a group in your own neighborhood. And if you know someone making an impact where you live, please DM me. I'd love to learn about them for a future episode. And with all the support this season has received, I'm officially gearing up for season 2. More stories, more impact, more heart. So make sure you follow or subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Making a difference isn't about being extraordinary. It's about caring enough to take that first step.